All right, so I'm gonna make this video again because after I posted my last one, I thought to myself it might get taken down because I used some words that I forgot are not acceptable on the YouTube channel, so I apologize. But after one of the last videos that I made, I um, made a statement that I didn't remember if my mom had wanted to harm herself. And then, of course, like the day after, I remembered I had a memory. So it was my 16th birthday, and maybe this time it will be shorter than my last video. So if I don't get to post it or somebody takes it down, if sorry, I use the words that aren't allowed. However, I will still tell my story. So 16th birthday, I live with my grandparents. They didn't celebrate birthdays, but I knew it was my birthday. So, we didn't have any big event or anything. So I was laying in my room at my grandparents' house. I was living with them majority of the time for years, but I did live with my mom off and on. I tried to during my teenage years a couple times. But, after the 5th grade, I lived primarily with my grandparents. So I heard a knock on my window. And to be honest with you, I don't remember if I was sleeping or if I was, watching TV in my room. I don't remember that part. However, I do remember laying there hearing a knock on my window. I opened, I was startled. I wasn't scared because, at that point in my life with everything else that had happened, nothing really scared me too much. But it did startle me. So I went to my window, looked through, out my window and saw my mom. Opened the window, took the screen off. She crawled into my room and told me that she was at the marina. She put rocks in her pants and she was walking out to the, into the water where the boat ramp was to end her life. And she changed her mind because she remembered it was my 16th birthday. So she got out the water and she walked up to the house. It was about a mile, but when she came to the house, she was still wet. Not soaking wet, but she was wet. You can see kind of like, I remember seeing the water line on her body where she had walked out. So, I know in her mind, she was telling me this in her own twisted way. That was her way of telling me that she loved me. I get it. I have empathy for her. That in her brain, she was doing the right thing by not giving me that, that specific memory of losing my mom on my 16th birthday. But that memory was still there with what, her crawling in the room and telling me that. Is still there in my brain. But she's right. I would rather have that memory than the latter. So, my grandparents heard the commotion, came in, got her out of my room, was so happy to see her because, of course, they hadn't seen their daughter in days. They were, relieved that she was alive, that, there she was. I hadn't heard from her. And I'm there left in the room, just trying to process what had happened. I don't believe anybody had came back and checked on me or anything, but if they had at this point in my life, anything and everything that I needed to talk about was always disregarded as, you're exaggerating, it wasn't that bad. Or whatever else they needed to tell me to, be okay with their daughter being messed up, so that they could, be okay with the situation as much as they could be. So, yeah, I think I made this story a little bit shorter than the last one. I'm not sure if they're going to remove that one. However, that was my 16th birthday. She did try to harm herself. She did not, because of it being my special day. So that was my memory. Thank you for listening. I know it's a video, so nobody can, stop me or say, hey, you're exaggerating. That's not what really happened. I don't believe you, whatever, whatever. But that was, basically a lot of things when it was just between me and my mom and nobody was around. That was what I got a lot of was, wasn't that bad. And it just, you know, it sucked to be so disregarded that way. But I cannot imagine as a parent to have a child have that diagnosis. So I couldn't tell. I would hope that if I ever was put in that situation that I would handle it better. But, back 30 years ago, there wasn't a lot of help for, a lot of us either way. So I don't hold any grudges or any animosity towards my grandparents because I just I can't imagine having a child and, not knowing where they are. And there's a lot more to that story about my mom and them not knowing where she was. So that wasn't the only time, of course. I'm sure a lot of you here know that, family members not knowing where they are is crushing. So, I like I said, I try to have empathy for my mom because I can't imagine what's going on in her brain. I'm so thankful to God that I was able to come out of, these situations from my childhood as, close to sane as I could possibly be. But not having this diagnosis, I'm so thankful to God. I know I have a guardian angel out there and who protected me a lot in a lot of these incidences. So that is my story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling me that I'm not exaggerating or making it up. Crap. All right. Well, that was it. Have a good night. Bye.